Hello, everybody. Welcome to Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Lord of the Rings and Hobbit and Rings of Power and movies and games and toys and theme parks. I am Justin. This is my co host, Cliff. We've been doing the show for 10 years. The OneRing.net has been around for over 22 years, bringing you all the latest news and rumors and gossip and everything that we can get our hands on with Lord of the
and
Rings. And we're
and a
not
little bit of
stopping now.
mischief here and there too. Just a
A
little
little,
bit.
a little
Yes.
bit of mischief. Yeah,
Did
yeah.
someone say theme parks? Now, we haven't talked about the Embracer group in detail, but boy, are there a lot of details to talk about, and that could mean perhaps the diversification and the other fans would call it the regurgitation of Tolkien in all kinds of new concepts in pop culture, stories, games, merchandise, and yes, even quite possibly theme parks, not to mention other shows and entertainment products. Oh my gosh, the possibilities are endless, and we're definitely going to navigate through some of that crazy conversation. And it's always lovely to have the very experienced and amiable chatters who are with us on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Discord, Instagram, and everywhere in between. Of course, our Facebook page as well. And hello, the Discord users. Wow, what a great place to be. Welcome, one and all, to our
Hello, Pete.
lively.
Pete,
Yes.
it's been a long
Hello,
time
Pete.
since I've seen you in the Facebook chat. Aravandi's over on the YouTube chat. Guitarist Tolkien. Hello, haven't seen your name in a while. Finrod84. Is that like Wonder Woman 84? I actually would like a Finrod 84 type show. Also,
You
the
mean
end
like
of
an early 80s retro story of Silmarillion with Finrod Felagund? And oh my gosh, that could be kind of cool. An interesting mix of 80s. Oh no, shut up. I better stop while I'm ahead.
Although what the controversy of Wonder Woman 84 of what she did or did not never mind Finrod never mind, let's not go there.
No,
Sauron
what
somehow got
controversy?
into Galadriel's head and there was a dream sequence
Oh,
at
oh,
the end of it.
don't.
Anyway, this show
Don't.
talks about news and rumors about Rings of Power. We are spoilerific. So just a heads up for anybody watching,
Yes, it
we
is.
do not hold back. We assume that you've watched all episodes or most episodes of the Rings of Power.
You know
We're
what?
not here to spoil things, but we're
No.
just gonna casually mention things.
We're going to casually be at our best behavior. But yes, Finrod 84. Did you see Tales of the Jedi? Oh my goodness gracious! I saw the first two of them. And yes, they are gorgeous, amazing. Oh yes, may the dwarves be with you. What a great T-shirt. Good stuff going on in the world of animation. Even though Bob Chapek over there, Disney company, doesn't seem to think that there's any adults in the room who have any taste for adult animation. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you are in the wrong job, Bob Chapek over at Disney. You are in the
Speaking of
wrong job,
people
buddy.
in the wrong job, Cliff,
Not
you were
kidding.
supposed to write an obituary
I
for
have more.
Jules Bass.
There's more than just an obituary to write. I actually want to memorialize Jules Bass, but I also want to do a retrospective of his career. And it's taking more time and more research than I was willing to dive into, but I am now deep diving. And so, with more research and more writing, we're actually going to say some very well considered and well researched things about his amazing career. And for those of you with us on the live show who do not know, if you go back in time to, I'm sorry to
If you
say
go
this,
back
but
in time to last week, it was
last
reported
week,
that Jules Bass of Rankin and Bass,
mhm,
who animated the Hobbit animated film in 1977,
yeah,
8,
but even a big
he
generation
just
before
died.
that, they were entertaining audiences around the world with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and this incredible stop motion animation technique that they did with their production houses in New York, working in tandem with an international Japanese animation company called Topcraft. And they did such amazing holiday specials. And, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, not the only one, but The Year Without a Santa Claus. And they did the animated adaptation of Peter S. Beagle's The Last Unicorn also. So all these amazing things. But whoa, do I have a story to tell about his career. And I appreciate everyone waiting on that. But we do want to wish our our very best condolences and best wishes to the family of Jules Bass. And wow, what a career. What an amazing career in animation and helping to bring new adaptations of Tolkien to life that we've never seen before. And if you have not ever seen it, you don't need Peter Jackson to give you 3 movies to tell a Hobbit story. You can go to Rankin and Bass and get that entire story told in 77 minutes.
And
Just
more songs in the
yeah,
Rankin and Bass
way
version.
more songs. Yeah.
Honestly, I think if we've been around so long, there was a lot of hesitation about will Peter Jackson's Hobbit movies include some of the songs that were made famous in the Hobbit cartoon, the Rankin and Bass Hobbit cartoon. And there you are with a high budget, high fantasy feature film movie, singing Blunt the Knives, Bend the Forks, and then
I love that. That was so funny. That was so great. It was a different melody. Of course, they were not using the really classic melodies that were written by song composer Maury Laws, who worked on lots of those holiday specials with Rankin and Bass. Instead, they got some brand new music, and it was so good to hear the dwarves singing Blunt the Knives and Bend the Forks.
I wish we got
Absolute
2 songs
treat.
in the first hour of An Unexpected Journey, and I wish the whole trilogy had more songs. Those dwarves should be singing more often. And if there's one recommendation I can give to the Rings of Power folks, this is not a criticism, but this is a request. Please have the dwarves sing more songs, and not just laments to the mountain, and not just, for reasons of mining. Please give us just some fun songs. I just want some fun songs, and bring back some of that fun energy to balance the darkness that Sauron's tale and Galadriel's tale
we
will
got
provide.
The Wandering Day. We were really lucky to get that extraordinary,
even
really
that was
beautiful,
a sad song,
but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful
sad.
song.
It was sad,
but it was actually honest. It was really one of the best and most Tolkien-like bits that
in
stood
the whole
out.
8 hours.
In the whole 8 hours. Yeah, it was a really great stuff. I really liked that.
So
bit.
people that joined us at the top of the show, you saw that intro with the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power logo fading into the map. And then the map goes into a place. It's like title to map. I just rewatched that, and I pulled the clip, and I just wanted to ask the chat room, should every episode of Rings of Power start like that? Should every single episode have a title that actually looks good and not just cheap fonts? We already talked about that last week. But should the show always start with a map and take us right to where the episode is beginning? We've got Devil Hunter in the chat room saying no. Cliff, what did you think about that? Episode 2, we got a beautiful title treatment that was different than all the other episodes, and from the title it just fades right into a map and takes us right into Rovanian. And I feel like it felt every week I felt missing. Like I wanted the map every episode.
I thought it was awesome when they used it. I thought it was even more awesome that they did not overuse it. Come on, you gotta not overuse that stuff. By the time
you cannot overuse a map in Middle Earth. Come on.
Well, maybe, but after you've done it a few times, then it just starts to look like it's we're not. All right, look, Matt, Nerd of the Rings, uses the maps over and over and over again because he's teaching. He's trying to teach people. In Rings of Power, I think they're trying to entertain people, not teach them. So, I think that they can use them judiciously. That you should use those beautiful map transitions, sprinkle them in here and there. But you don't have to overuse
here and there,
it.
Everywhere. You have multiple storylines that are not connected. Please tell us where we are. Right now in episode 8, I was totally confused because in one scene you have Theo and the men saying ruler of Southlands, ruler of Southlands, king of Southlands. And then like 5 minutes later, you have all the orcs saying ruler of Southlands. I'm like, all right, who's in the Southlands? Where in the Southlands are they? Are they both in the Southlands? Did the men move to a different Southlands? What I don't know where anything is in episode 8 because there's not a map.
Do you know what? I think then maybe it should become a staple that they always use with that same regularity. If they use it the same way every time, at the start of every single episode, right after the title card, go to the map, and then let us bring into the characters.
That is what I was just saying. I'm glad we're in violent agreement.
No. I was repeating exactly what you were saying because but if they don't do it in a pattern, and if they do it in an uneven kind of way, like only once every now and then it doesn't work the same. It's kind of like
if you're going to switch a storyline, show us the map and show us where you're going.
Like make it a trademark of the show. It is a trademark of House of the Dragon that they have this opening episode, this opening title, but now they're changing the emblems of the houses that are in struggle or in conflict against one another, so that there are and there used to be variations in the opening of their title to show different parts of Westeros and even over the Sundering Seas, the narrow seas to It's called the narrow seas.
The chat room, Cliff. The chat room wants to tell us that not the elves sing a lot in Tolkien's books. What is your opinion after watching the show? Just on the show itself, do you see these dwarves singing, or these elves in Rings of Power singing?
No, I have not seen anybody who has any desire to break out into song anywhere.
Is that a big miss?
If Robert Arameo starts singing at any point in time, he is the only one I would believe it. I would not believe it from Galadriel. I would not believe it from Brimby. No, Brimby does not look like he wants to sing. And certainly not the High King. You know, Benjamin Walker does not look like he wants to sing.
No, not at all.
Feeling the only person I would even believe it in context of the way they're giving us Rings of Power now, the only believable character is Elrond. If he breaks out into any song at all, then I would totally get into that. But I don't sense any songcraft from the other elves on stage.
How did we forget that the elves sang as they entered Valinor? Does that count?
Okay, that was the one bit. That was the one bit where they were singing.
Did you like that? Did you like the singing?
Actually, yeah, I thought that was cool. I thought that was like surprisingly cool. Like, okay, this is interesting.
Should the elven smiths working with Celebrimbor sing while they work?
Why not? I mean, in The Hobbit, there are elves singing as the Bilbo and the dwarves just walking down and marching their ponies down into the valley, the valley of Rivendell. They're just singing as they arrive. They're like, "Oh, you're arriving. Let's sing you a cute little song, a song of arrival. Let's do that." And that's in the book where elves are singing for no reason. So maybe you could have elves singing for reasons of wanting to magically capture the essence of certain things in the air. I don't know.
All right. Well, before we get into our big title chat about showrunners and writers react to the fans reacting to their show, we've got some news, and music is our first segue. Howard Shore just updated his website today. He says that he is scoring Christian Bale's new movie, The Pale Blue Eye, which is about Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh wow!
Howard Shore is returning to darkness and scoring Edgar Allan Poe.
Gosh, I love Poe so much. You know what? I really love all those wacky Roger Corman adaptations of Edgar Allan Poe from the 60s with Vincent Price and Peter Lorre.
That's
in
right.
Those movies. Oh, these were so good.
So The Pale Blue Eye got a Vanity Fair first look today. You can go to vanityfair.com. And Gillian Anderson, Toby Jones, Robert Duvall are all in this movie with Christian Bale, which is going to
Oh,
be
that's going to be
scored
so good.
by Howard Shore. So
I'm
huge. I'm looking forward to this movie now. I was
Yeah.
already kind of looking forward to it, like, oh, that would be a nice HBO show. But with Howard Shore going to an Edgar Allan Poe, Cecilia in the chat room says, I want to see that movie. The Black Cat is my favorite story from Poe. He's got so many. Congrats to
yes.
Howard Shore. And if there's another request I can make of Amazon for season 2 and future seasons, please find a way to let Howard score more of the show. And maybe, let me just throw this out, maybe you have Howard choose a race of Middle Earth and he only scores that storyline.
Oh my gosh.
Let Bear McCreary take over, still maintain the rest.
So you're talking about sharing different duties of composition, not based upon timing, scheduling, or production schedule, but just the themes of those culture and people within the story. And you think that one composer would take on those themes and those culture by himself? What about what Bear McCreary has already built in with his work on themes for Khazad-dûm already?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, if as a fan of Howard Shore, Cliff,
Okay.
if he was allowed to score one storyline, one race, one specific storyline of this, what would you want Howard Shore to score? Would you want him to score
The Stranger?
The Stranger and the Harfoot Journey, right?
I want him to score The Stranger. If you're bringing up this hypothetical idea, only playing along with your hypothetical. But here's the reason why. If The Stranger is Olorin or / Gandalf, and he's going to go into all these new regions to the far, far east in Rhûn, in these regions where we've never been. Now we can have new cultures and new melodies and new leitmotifs that Howard might like to create that could blend in all together with some of his previous opus. But even better, if The Stranger is not Olorin, is not Gandalf, if The Stranger is one of the Blue Wizards, then Howard can write all new music for one of the Blue Wizards in a whole new approach, a whole new way, while visiting new lands on the map. But, it's not going to happen at all.
It's
not going to happen. I like your idea.
Hold on.
It's not going to happen.
Anything can happen because everything is on the table for season 2. Everything.
Why is everything on the table? What, really?
Green Dragon Gossip. Everything's on the table.
We're in Green Dragon Gossip and we're only 20 minutes into the show. All right, seriously? Okay.
So everything's on the table. They're rewriting it. This is their second full rewrite of season 2.
Are you suggesting they're opening the doors to hire any new composer they might want?
Our Green Dragon Gossip right now is Amazon has not contacted Bear McCreary or Howard Shore for season 2 yet.
Why isn't there original
Everything
paperwork?
is on the table. He was only contracted and paid for season 1.
But I've seen contracts before, and it says option. The option to go forward.
They have not elected that option yet.
So,
but it's only the first 2 weeks of production.
Why would someone at Bear McCreary's level write and agree to sign a contract that wasn't going to keep going in all 5 seasons?
You take the work that you can get. Come on. So
this is such a crazy concept.
Everything's on the table, and I agree with you, Cliff. I believe that if they can figure it out, because we reported for the last year.
Yes,
we reported here that our little spies heard whispers that Howard and Bear couldn't find a way to work together.
Okay.
And whether that's scheduling conflicts, whether it's a creative control, whether it's a personality conflicts, I don't know. It just wasn't working out.
Okay.
And so they decided to
Okay.
split it up, and Howard Shore only got the main title theme, and Bear McCreary did the rest. And I'm saying anything's on the table for season 2 and moving forward.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
feel you are
Okay.
correct. I would love to hear Howard take over the music of the Journey East.
Because it's all new. It's all new in terms of geography, culture, peoples, and characters. Everything's new.
Sigerboy says Bear has hinted he's coming back for season 2. He's hinted because he wants the job. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So
Well, let me talk about it this way. Let's just say for our audience out there that this is not industry standard type of business. Usually,
it is, but it is.
wait, hold
Every
on.
season
You're
of
doing a
TV
season-
shows
but
have
you're gonna-
different composers.
You're going to tell your composer, we're only going to hire you for this, and then we're not going to contract you. Should we renew, we're not going to contract you in an ironclad guarantee for
What?
seasons
Doesn't
2,
happen
3, 4.
ever. Not even with actors. Actors, showrunners get replaced. Walking Dead replaced Frank Darabont as their showrunner after season 2.
Oh, well, that is true. That is true.
I'm telling you, when it comes to TV, they kill off characters, they recast characters, they write out actors and actresses if they have health issues or something like that, for many reasons. So I'm saying everything's on the table. I will say this, even though we gave Rings of Power music an A on our report card last week, I feel that there wasn't enough difference between the sound, the music of the Elven lands and the music of the lands of men. And
really,
I just don't feel that. I guess this is why I need the map, right? Because audibly, when we moved to a different area in the show, I wasn't immediately like, oh, this sounds like a different area. We are in a different, like it. There wasn't enough variation for me.
Okay, well, there wasn't what you would call a problem with composer Ramin Djawadi, who was the Emmy-winning composer for Game of Thrones. They brought him back for House of the Dragon without.
Every season was a new contract.
Intriguing. Okay. I find this all very intriguing.
Indeed.
Very intriguing. Okay, well, in that case, should we start an online petition for Howard Shore or do we want to see what we love? I'm all personally enjoying Bear's music, so I don't need to start a petition to have anybody come in and replace him. But if it is wide open and there are possibilities, then maybe it would be cool if they could work together. If Howard and Bear could possibly work together. I don't know how they would do that. Maybe trade off every other episode, or maybe trade themes and ideas. But I don't know what they're doing. It's a whole strange thing. Imagine them bringing a third composer in who we've never thought of.
They do that when we like Bear and we like Howard.
I know, but you're the way you're talking about it, the way that this contract is so wide open that they haven't even finished signing the deal yet.
But it's not. They're not ready. They just started filming season 2.
We're also hearing rumors.
Devil Hunter in the chat room says Bear's doing fine, no change needed.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the overall feeling. Like, we gave the music an A. I think it's going to get an Emmy. I think it might get a Grammy. I think Bear McCreary, his due has come. His time has come to be on a very popular stage, because I think he's mostly known for video games right now.
Well, then instead of speculating about Howard Shore coming in and doing music for The Stranger and the Harfoot Journey, I would be more than happy to just keep things the way they are, because what Bear has provided is really superb and really distinct. It's really distinct and good stuff.
But it's not the next level. Look, you always want to be better, right? Season 2 is going to be better than season 1. Season 3 is going to be better. Season 5 is going to win all the Emmys. Okay. That's what we can hope for. So you have to make
Yes,
adjustments every
you are
season to
forever the
get there.
cockeyed optimist. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I get it. I get that. Well, all
So
right. Well,
Pipskay is in the chat room. Welcome, Pipskay. Great to see you. People are talking about some posts of some of the actors. I caught this post. Um, Lloyd Owen getting in some horseback practicing. He says practicing for orc ball, or as we call it, golfing bowl, which
right, golfing ball.
the Middle Earth version of polo. Um, could we see? I know this is a joke post, but Cliff, is there a chance? And would you want to see golfing bowl brought to the screen?
Yes, absolutely. Gosh, yes. I would love to see the entire recreation of the battle where Bull Roar took actually faces his enemy. I'd love to see the whole thing. But also, I'm sick of pickleball. I am so tired of this trendy popularity of pickleball. And in response to that, I think we should have golf and bowl. And the Tolkien fans bring that in as the next trendy game to play. Imagine all of us taking over golf courses all over the world.
It could be so
It would be
brutal,
so fun.
but so fun in the show if they
We
filmed
could
it right.
we could bring custom made little goblin heads to every golf
Oh
course,
man, it just
and we could
yeah.
start like taking over the world
See, but
with our own trend. That'd be
this is
great.
one of my issues with Rings of Power. It's too serious
Yes,
for its own good.
the Battle of Green Fields.
I don't feel that the current Rings of Power is fun and fancy free enough to have a golf and bowl type, you know, like golf and bowl is
Well,
very, very evil and destructive and brutal if taken on its face value. And you have to position it in kind of a comedic manner. Otherwise, it's just straight evil. Um,
mm,
so
there's
EXO
not
and EXO in the chat room is saying there is no fun watching the show. Yeah, there's no fun break. There's no hobbits to give us a laugh. I expected Lenny Henry to give us some laughs.
and now he's gone.
I'm so sad. I'm so mad at that stranger for not using his healing powers. How dare you, not Gandalf? How dare you heal a tree,
Then
make an orchard, and not heal your new best friend?
how dare you not Gandalf? Because his new name is Gandalf, not Gandalf, not
Right.
Gandalf. Yeah. Okay.
We've got a couple other news items. It was announced today. Embracer, the new owners of the
Yes.
Lord of the Rings movie rights and
Yes.
theme parks, right? They are closing Square Enix Montreal studio. This is this was a game studio that made mobile games, right? Like
Right.
Lara Croft, Tomb Raider for iPhones. They basically just made iPhone and Android games. This is a good move in my perspective. I don't necessarily play all these Lord of the Rings iPhone games that they keep advertising to me on Instagram. Like if we're gonna get back into the Lord of the Rings video game space, we want MMOs, we want console games, we want PC games, we want we want great high budget games for Lord of the Rings. By the way,
Yes.
I've heard Embracer is kicking the tires on some theme park moves.
Oh no. Okay. Look, the Embracer Group is an unknown world of speculation where we don't know what's going on.
Don't
We
know.
don't know any of the individuals, the shadowy, unknown people behind the scenes. But what we do know is that the set of material rights that they hold covers a lot.
Magdari
Covers a lot.
Elbereth, I
Covers a
hear
lot.
you. I like that. I appreciate that comment. Yes, it would have been too stereotypical, but the show needs some This show needs some comedy. Yeah. So theme parks. Look, we've been telling you guys for a few years. I think it was like 3 years ago, before the pandemic, where we showed you slides from a pitch deck for Universal Studios
Yep.
Middle Earth Park.
Yep.
There has
Yep.
not been any official confirmation, but if you've been
No.
following this show for
None at
long
all.
enough, you might know, you might have heard our Green Dragon gossip about Lord of the Rings land in Florida. So, but nothing's been official, nothing's been confirmed. Maybe the new owners of Embracer are just like, hey, if we've got this theme park going on, can we make more rides? Can we do more than just a barrel water ride or a Smaug Golden Dragon coaster? Or, I don't know. Options. But we hear that the new owners are having meetings every single week about video games and theme parks and everything under the sun. But except
Oh my gosh.
Rings of Power merch. For some reason, Amazon and Embracer cannot find a middle ground to where everyone's happy about Rings of Power merch. So,
do you know what? Early stuff would appear at the New York Toy Fair. We should look on the calendar and see when the Toy Fair is scheduled, because that's like that is a big business. The toy business is a huge business, and they meet and have their big powwow annually, way before the Christmas season, so they can talk way ahead of time about the new toys and the new designs and new things they're going to bring out.
House of the Dragon already has 3 Funko Pops.
You know what I saw?
House of the Dragon.
Toys are coming out from DC, The Flash, and there's the Michael Keaton Batman in his original Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman outfit, but it's for the upcoming movie The Flash that DC is going to release.
Wow.
Yeah. Talk about being able to see toys months ahead of a movie being released. When it was time for
so the short answer when it comes to merch is that we don't expect any Rings of Power merch in time for the holiday season, for Christmas gifts or anything like that, and it's nobody's fault, because it's everybody's fault.
It's his fault. It's
Amazon and Embracer and Middle Earth and Warner Brothers, no one can come to an agreement on who gets to share in the gold.
Oh, so this is a bunch of arguments about percentages and who's going to get a cut of the sales of merch, right? Yeah. It is one of the most legendary stories of all time that George Lucas wanted to keep the merchandising rights for Star Wars.
It's also one of the most legendary stories of all time that Warner Brothers got sued for making Lord of the Rings movie slot machines.
Yep, that's right, because they abused the extent of the licensing that they had, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so no wonder they got taken to court.
It's a complicated thing. So all I'm saying is all parties have to come to the table. And if you're still confused about what rights Amazon has and what rights Embracer has all the rights in the world except for making a TV show. So Amazon is making the TV show. Embracer has the merch rights for whatever's in the books.
So until they get that sorted out, then we might not even get any season 2 merchandise for Rings of Power, and that doesn't come out till 2024.
Theoretically, Embracer could make their own dagger. Finrod's dagger.
Right.
But if it looks different from the show, they could sell it. But they don't want to do that. They want to use the one that looks like the one in the show,
right?
And that and then Amazon, wants. So everyone, guys, I just hope you guys come to terms and work it out, because we as fans, we will buy the things if you just put it out there. Look, you put the merch out there, and I promise you there will be enough gold to share between Embracer and Bezos. Like, there's enough to go around. Our pockets are full, ready to buy letter openers.
They just They just had their toy fair at the top of October, a month ago.
And there
The
was
next
nothing. There was nothing from Rings
Nothing.
of Power.
The next one is scheduled, believe it or not. I'm here at the Toy Association, here for immediate release. I'm looking at the press release, okay? Wow, New York is set. Toy Fair New York is going to be October 3rd.
Yeah, it was last month, and there was nothing Rings of Power.
But this isn't 2023. They're announcing it for next year.
Yeah,
so maybe
it
we'll
just
learn
happened.
more in 2023.
Well, because no one's come to terms on the merch, so nothing's being made right now. Troy in the chat room wants to know, can Embracer make films within the Jackson verse? That is to say, could Ian McKellen do a Gandalf movie? Or
interesting question.
The short answer is yes. Embracer can make films, spin-offs of the characters. Warner Brothers made those films, and so if you want Ian McKellen back as Gandalf, Warner Brothers has to be involved. Right now, Warner Brothers does not have any rights to any more movies. So if they want a Gandalf movie with Ian McKellen, they'd have to go back to Warner Brothers and say, all right, let's do another deal. They could go to another studio. They could go to Paramount and say, let's do a Gandalf movie with a different actor.
They really could. They really could. So anything that they make can be in any direction they want to go. Maybe we should caution the fans to think about things going very far, far afield from what we are familiar with in the New Line Cinema Peter Jackson verse. Because things could go way outside of that. Way beyond.
There's a couple ways they could. There's a few ways they could shake it. Look, but yes, Embracer can make all the films now. They just can't make a TV show.
Right.
That's 8 episodes.
Right.
Smells like Marvel.
Oh yes, yeah, that's a fair assessment. It smells like Marvel. The Disney Marvel deal. Yeah, that's what you smell in the air. That is the smell.
Why would we want?
Why
would we want a Gandalf or young Aragorn or Legolas movie when there's so much other content in the Legendarium? Here's the thing: the only rights that that Embracer have are in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. That's it. Not the Legendarium, not Home or Silmarillion or Second Age or earlier Tales of Beren and Luthien. No. They can only expand on stories in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. That's the same rights that Amazon has, just in television form. So a Gollum story might be good. Sean, well, you're going to love the new video game, Hunt for Gollum. Return to Gollum? Gollum game? I think it's just called Gollum, right?
Return to Gollum.
No, Return to Moria is a different game.
I like the idea of calling it Return to Gollum. Return to
Gollum. Return to Smeagol. A Gollum game not based on any of the movies is coming out, and it's a.
I'm looking forward to that. Actually, I really am.
Yeah, I am too. Other news this week, Cliff. We got picture in picture. Amazon Studios has named Sue Kroll the head of marketing, the new head of marketing.
Okay, cool.
For Amazon Studios, comes from Warner Brothers, and she will report to the studio boss Jennifer Salke. Interestingly, neat in the announcement, after serving as a lead consultant on the extensive rollout of the Rings of Power. So this is really exciting. Before she was doing this at Warner Brothers, Sue Kroll launched Harry Potter movies, Argo, Inception, Dunkirk, and Mad Max Fury Road. I will tell you that all of those movies had incredibly good marketing. Inception, what a complicated movie that was. Maybe less complicated than Tenet, but Argo, amazing. Inception, amazing movie. How do you sell a movie like that that's too complicated? How do you sell a movie like that? Dunkirk, no one has made World War II movies since forever for like 15 years.
Since Saving Private Ryan.
Since like Saving Private Ryan was kind of like the last of the great World War II movies until Dunkirk. How do you sell Dunkirk? And honestly, what happens at Dunkirk? There's not even a battle. It's just a movie about a bunch of soldiers stranded on the shore.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So she marketed that. It was a huge hit. And of course, Mad Max Fury Road had an amazing, amazing trailer. And so people have been asking me all week, you know, when Amazon says Sue has done an outstanding job leading the marketing efforts for the Rings of Power, our biggest premiere in history. People want to know what she's responsible for. Well, Cliff, remember how Comic-Con just felt so much better? The marketing of Rings of Power just felt better.
Yes, because things had changed. There was a change behind the scenes.
Well,
about
that was Sue Kroll consulting in a marketing capacity. So they basically, Amazon listens to fans, right? And so after the Super Bowl thing, where we did a 6-hour live stream reaction with tons of wonderful people, and then but then Amazon did a super fans video, which was so cringe, and then posters that made no sense, posters that had no context and made no sense, and then a London trip.
I made a joke about that in my opening line of my review. When I wrote my review of episodes 1 and 2, the first line that I wrote was, "We had to endure an entire year of faceless posters, and you know, we were waiting and waiting impatiently to get to where we'd learned something about the show." And I think now I realize where that change started happening behind the scenes.
That's
because of this individual.
Yeah. So
okay.
Sue is an amazing hire. This is a step in the right direction. And Cliff, when I just told you 20 minutes ago, I just told you that everything is on the table. We have to be better. They have to be better. Season 2 has to be better in all categories. Our report card as fans reported what we saw, and marketing got a poor grade. Not for lack of budget or lack of effort. It was just a miss until Sue Kroll came in, and we walked away from Comic-Con on the biggest high of energy.
We saw so many good things, and we saw so many carefully presented things. They were well thought out, very well thought out, and well considered. And the marketing was very specific, and it was very good to be able to see the leaves from the tree Nimloth starting to fall, and to see, you know, because to everyone looking at the show, looking for, you know, things that bring us to Numenor and bring us to the Second Age in a whole new way that we've never seen before. It was much better.
Tolkien Wonder in the chat room says, "I think marketing that doesn't fight against the show will help improve people's perception." Also,
how about the showrunners? Interviews with the showrunners are part of that marketing, are they not?
Well, yeah. Well, no. Well, that's a PR thing. That's not marketing. But anyway,
that's a PR thing. Okay.
The fact that they've hired a Warner Brothers executive with some of the best launches in Warner Brothers history.
Yeah.
That did an amazing job with what she was tasked to do, and to turning around the ship as much as she could as a consultant. And the fact that she reports to Jennifer Salke. She does not report to the showrunners.
Did she work on the Hobbit trilogy? Did she work on the Hobbit trilogy during that period of time?
I believe she did. Yes. Remember
intriguing.
when they flew hundreds of fans in the Hobbit fan contest to New Zealand?
Yeah.
So Sue Kroll, an amazing hire, and I'm telling you guys, marketing just got an upgrade. So this is what I'm talking about when I say everything's on the table. Okay. Amazon's looking at the data, and they'll be like, "What what will it take to make
So
season 2 even better?
they'll be hiring new directors, potentially new writers as well.
We've heard that one director is coming back and 2 fresh new directors have been hired for season 2. But that's
Really?
just Green Dragon gossip.
Oh, it always comes back to when we've got green dragon gossip because we really don't know what the hell we're talking about. So, or we don't want to get in trouble for something that we do know what we're talking about, but we don't want to sound like
we
we don't
know
want to sound
things
like
that we're playing nice because things could change.
maybe we're not really supposed to. Okay, all right. Let me see, because you keep saying that phrase over and over again, Justin. Everything's on the table, and that is making me think along the lines of maybe I should add a layer of thought to that, from the writers and the directors to the composer on down. Not just the fact that they have to hire local carpenters and local craftspeople and artisans and plasterers, carpenters, painters, and people who have to work in distressing the armor and the costumes. Not just the lay people who have to do that work, but you're talking about from the top down. Everything's on the table. That's what I'm trying to ask you to clarify.
Everything's on the table. How do we make this show better? That's
Why don't
the
we?
simple question from
let's
the top.
let's ask the fans online. How do you feel about that? Okay, everybody who's in the chat room with us right now, we got you here with us in YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and every chat.
Well, the chat room's
compartment.
already saying work on the
What do you
characters.
guys feel about that? Work on the characters?
Better costumes in season 2? I don't know. I thought the costumes were on point. I have no complaints about the costumes, except that I feel like
I did enjoy the costumes.
Yeah, Troy says everything's on the table, as Durin says to Dissa after bringing it home. Yes, that is no more mysteries, says Nile. Cliff. The writers and the showrunners are being interviewed across the internet, and they are responding to some of the things. Like Rings of Power writer explains why the show sidesteps Tolkien lore to have the elves forge their rings first.
You've got to be kidding me. Okay, and I see you, Brian. Hello there, Brian, in the chat, and Otaku Senpai and everybody. And hello, Jen. Hello.
Jennifer Hutchinson, the
hello,
main writer,
Nerd Cookies. Hi, Nerd Cookies.
One of the lead writers for season 1, says so much of the season was about the elves and their journey, and Galadriel's journey, and the fading of Eregion. So we wanted to tie those rings into that story. It was about narrowing our focus down on them and having those rings cap off the season, because we had to make rings. It felt like the climax of that arc, as opposed to trying to manage the timeline in a different way. Cliff, your response. Because we had to make rings, it felt like the climax of the whole arc of the fading of Eregion.
It seems to be a really, really specific choice. It is a choice, but how I feel about that, well, it causes confusion that I'm not sure I can figure out. Chronologically changing the way that the elven rings were made first is a bit weird, because the elves made 3 rings in secret on their own without Anatar being involved at all. And it looks like, from what we saw in season 1 in episode 8, it kind of felt and looked like Halbrand was directly involved with making these 3 rings. A lot.
A lot.
I believe it's also correct to say that it was a reaction. Like, after realizing that they made 7, they made 9 rings, they made all these rings, and then Sauron revealed himself by making the 1. But before that, before he even made the 1 ring, they were making their 3 rings in secret. And I thought that that whole storyline of making the 3 Elven rings later on would have been like, oh, the espionage. I thought there would have been lots of great material in there to have people who did not trust Anatar to start convincing Celebrimbor to make other rings in secret, because you shouldn't be working with this guy anymore. Maybe we need to protect ourselves from him. And we could have had a lot of mileage out of that storyline. Now,
But I have the
how?
opposing opinion. Uh,
Okay, okay. Tell me
Again,
your opposing opinion.
I always felt that making the elven rings last and
Yeah.
having those rings not under the ultimate power of Sauron was kind of a cop out. It was a narrative miss. It makes no sense. If they use the same process and the same tools and infuse the same magic and
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, they took all of that knowledge gained from making all the other rings, and then made their 3 rings at the end. It makes no sense to me, casual fan, that those would be impervious to Sauron's power and impulse and control. So I don't agree. I like. I don't. I'm not sure if I like it yet, but I am very okay with them forging the rings first before the
Mm,
other 17 rings are polluted with evil.
but that's not what it is. I mean, it's like the whole. It makes less sense to me because the whole plan that Anatar had was to control all these other species, all these other races of people in Middle Earth by ringcraft, and uh, and now he's taken off stage at the end of episode 8, and he's Halbrand slash Sauron. So does that mean we're going to have another actor come in and pretend to be Anatar, a whole different person? Are they going to reintroduce him again back to Eregion to have this new relationship with Celebrimbor? Are they going to start it all over again now with maybe him pretending to be a different person? And it just seems really strange to me. It seems really strange to me. Let's see what people are saying here in the live chat. Um, oh, hello there. I'm okay with Monica says I'm okay with the 3 being first if we get a flashback. Oh, a flashback. A lot of fans have theorized that that the other 16 were actually made first, but none of us watching season 1 know that. Okay.
I feel look, I feel that I never fully understood why the 3 elven rings that were made last,
Hi,
but
Pipsky.
before the One Ring, were impervious to Sauron's machinations. So I am
Because
okay.
he had no hand in their making. The exact text in
Oh,
Professor Tolkien's work is
then
he had
we
no hand in their making.
then that's disproved in Rings of Power because he has the major hand
Yep.
in making these 3 rings. So
Yeah,
maybe
that's
that
why it
is the
seems a bit odd.
bigger
It seems a
that's
bit
the
odd.
bigger lore breaking of Rings of Power here. Is not that the 3 rings were first.
Well, hold on.
It's that the
He
3
wasn't in
rings
the room.
were.
Halbrand wasn't in the room. But
It doesn't matter if it's he's in the room
but
when it's
doesn't that
poured. It's all
does
of
it
his instructions.
it's his
Celebrimbor
instructions,
had
it's his
no
ideas.
agency in episode 8.
It
Celebrimbor
makes
has
you wonder.
no
It makes you
agency.
wonder, doesn't it? But don't you think that's the way the writers might defend themselves? Is by saying he wasn't in the room. But I'm in agreement with you in saying that his influence on the 3 rings, the way it is presented in episode 8, is particularly striking.
Pete
His
Richard in the chat
influence
room
is really
says,
striking. Really.
Pete Richard asks, can Sauron change his appearance at this point in the story? The implication of the magic of the 3 witches, where they change their appearance, to two different people. First, she plays Poppy or Holly or Holy or Proudfoot or whatever, Nori. She's like appears as Nori, and then she's not, and then she appears as not Gandalf, and then she reveals herself. So the implication is these three witches that are followers of Sauron have the power to shapeshift in real time. The implication is Sauron would have that power too.
Well, he is a shapeshifter because he took on the form of Halbrand. Halbrand
right.
is a whole shape-shifting thing that Professor Tolkien
Yeah.
never wrote about, but
it's implied. So Cliff, that's the first defense from writer of Rings of Power. Do you accept the writer's response about making the three rings first? Because we had to make rings. It felt like the climax of the arc of the fall of Aragion.
not easily. No. The answer is not easily accept the answer of the writers. I don't easily accept the answer because I feel that there was so many missed opportunities of, it would have been really rock and roll if they just started making rings for dwarves, because they're trying to secure a stronger and better relationship with Khazad-dûm. Maybe they're trying to get their hands on more Mithril. And because in this world of Rings of Power, they've got this whole idea about elves fading, and the elves fading now having a function of hard magic, that Mithril, supposedly from the Light of the Silmaril, being implied to be part of this process of Mithril, blah, 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 blah. Because they got all this going on, I'm like, why not just make dwarven rings first at the end of season one? Because it could have been like, look, let's make these gifts. And Halbrand could have been influencing it, and maybe Celebrimbor would have thought this is the way to get King Durin's approval.
Yeah, I know. They set up King that whole Durin's thing approval. Of like, someone's got to convince King Durin to play ball. Upon reflection on my third viewing of Rings of Power, I got to say my biggest concern right now is that they spent 8 hours and we have not met any of the kingdoms of men that are supposed to take a ring, and we've not met any of the 7 kingdoms of dwarves
that are
supposed to take a ring.
We haven't met. You're right. And
we haven't met any of the ring holders.
I'm really glad you mentioned
that. We have 20 rings to make. Okay,
and
folks?
Instead, we're moving into season 2 with still mystery box ideas of somebody going to give Waldreg.
Who's
going to be a Nazgul? I don't want to make any more guesses about that. I want to see.
All right, we got more comments from it. Rings of Power writer defends the show's biggest change to Tolkien canon.
Okay.
According to writer and producer Jennifer Hutchinson, whose TV credits include Guillermo del Toro's The Strain, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. She says the staff asked themselves a simple question: what would Sauron do? And quote, "We think about things like making sure that Halbrand is internally consistent for Halbrand and for Sauron. If you go back and look at the decisions he's making, you can read them for each character." Cliff, my initial response to that is Halbrand spends like 5 episodes saying, "Hey, I don't want to go back to the Southlands. I want to stay in Numenor." Right. He keeps saying it.
Yep.
So if the writer is just now saying every line of dialogue works for Sauron and works for Halbrand, so Sauron never declined going back to the Southlands. Sauron never had and never wanted to stay in Numenor. Am I wrong?
You're right. I get it. Sauron wanted to get into the machinations of corrupting Numenorians, after he got to the point after the War of the Elves and Sauron, after he laid waste to Eregion, and after he kills Brimby, and Celebrimbor has that very, very unfortunate, miserable end. But then after Sauron realizes what a threat, a real, genuine threat, the Númenóreans is to him, or the Númenóreans are to him, that's when he decides to allow himself to be taken captive, and he submits to be taken back by Pharazôn back to Númenor. And then the real process of corrupting the Númenóreans begins. That's when he wants to go back, because he allows himself to be taken captive. He realizes he's not going to beat the Númenóreans militarily. Sauron makes a different plan. And boy, is it a much more effective plan.
Cliff, some people in the chat room have a valid comment that I've been hearing over the last few weeks.
And what's that?
Sauron was always a master of gaslighting, so you can't trust anything he says. So what's the point in getting angry at any line of dialogue of Halbrand not being true to Sauron's character?
Sure.
Do you have a response to that?
Sure, why not? Sure, okay, but then again,
so Sauron is just an unreliable narrator.
But the writers should then say that, instead of trying to say everything he says holds true to both the real Sauron and the false Halbrand. Why not just? Do you know what? I don't know. It just seems a bit backwards to have done this type of an early deception by Sauron so early in season 1, when they have to laboriously go onward and have Anatar show up doing more deception by Sauron. Instead, we did it this way with Halbrand, and then we got 3 rings made out of order. I don't know.
All right.
Listen, Otaku Senpai is right. We did meet one. We met one dwarven lord who might get one of the 7 dwarven rings.
Maybe.
Yes, we did.
Maybe it's King Showrunners talk about why Rings of Power witches look like Lord of the Rings ring wraiths.
Okay.
Without being in the Shadow Realm, by the way. And if we go down, Patrick McKay, co-showrunner, says they were riffing on the visual language of Peter Jackson's films. There are glimpses into the unseen world where the true form of something is revealed. And then he goes on to say, were the witches defeated or were they temporarily vanquished? Cliff, your response.
So they're being called witches now.
Yes, and Patrick just says, were they defeated or were they just temporarily vanquished?
It looked like they were dissolved and atomized. It looked like they were
turned into butterflies, remember?
And that's the Lord of the Rings equivalent of being dusted by Thanos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look,
that's what. Yeah, it looked like they were dead. It looks
let me
like
ask you.
Characters are gone. It really does.
Let me ask you this: Patrick McKay is implying in this interview, that those witches are not dead. Would you be would you be unhappy if they come back in season 2? Would it deflect? What's the word I'm looking for? Would it lessen the impact of Gandalf saying "I am good" and doing a good thing? Would it lessen the impact of that scene?
Yeah, if they're still around and they're still alive, it seems to lessen his. If they're just witches and they're just, these maybe the showrunners are implying that they are other types of Maiar spirits and not human at all. Maybe they're not human. Maybe they're not human. I don't know.
McKay implies that. He says, we like the idea that there are different forms of magic in Tolkien. The visual storytelling hopefully suggests that these witches are lesser conjurers than one of the wizards would be, and they are bested here, but they escape in another form.
But who are conjurers? there are human beings, okay? There are humans, there are dwarves, there are elves, and then there are the others who are Maiar spirits and Malar and Vile, and so wow. All right, here we go. I don't know what to think of this now, because they might be just making up something out of whole cloth that
Well,
might not even be part of the diagram I'm trying to draw with my knowledge of Tolkien. I don't know.
Patrick McKay goes on to say, we are thinking about Macbeth, and we're thinking about the old crones of the three witches.
Yes,
Just
Macbeth.
trying to come up with something strange and weird. We know they come from Rune. We know there are magic cults in Rune, which is one of the things Tolkien writes about. So maybe there's a slightly different kind of magic in Rune
Maybe.
that we can peel back the layers. Your response?
Okay. Maybe you're going into a whole new category of doing these things now, and getting the chance to make up new magic systems when Professor Tolkien really didn't codify much of a magic system at all, really. Maybe it's unnecessary to try to codify any hardcore, or I mean hard magic system, as they call it. Maybe it doesn't need to be codified that way, but people who have
Are you satisfied with the writer's response overall to these witches, which they basically saying this is a type of magic we've never seen before. This is a magic from Rune, which Tolkien only hinted at, and these witches did not die, and they will return. Your full response.
Oh, here we go. Okay, let's see where this goes. Let's see where this goes.
Are you along for this journey? I guess this is the whole thing that
why do we need to have invented magic users when the use of magic in Tolkien's entire legendarium is so limited? It is limited in such a way. It's I don't know what to say. We don't need Dungeons and Dragons style magic users. We don't need magic systems when Professor Tolkien had such soft magic, such permeable edges of the way that kind of stuff worked in his world. So I don't even know what to say about it. I don't know. It's am I
Cliff
enthusiastic?
is hesitant. I don't blame him. The chat room is picking up on your hesitation.
I've been ambivalent for a lot of things, for a lot of reasons. I've been really ambivalent about a whole bunch of stuff. If we're talking about blue wizards, if they really want to open up the best possible storyline, don't let the stranger be Olorin, and don't let him be a Gandalf who's not Gandalf. Let another Meteor Man show up. Let there be another Meteor Man in season 2, so that we know we're going to get 2 blue wizards. And then, if you want to make up all this other stuff, great, go for it. And let's see what happens with other witches and magic users. But I will provide a side note. Historically speaking, the 3 Hecate, the witches from Shakespeare's Macbeth, from the Greek, the Hecate, are recognizable very strongly to Sandman fans. Anybody who's read the Sandman comics or seen the series knows that the 3 witches represent the fates. The 3 fates, they're also called the kindly ones. They are the mother, the maiden, and the crone. And they are, in Shakespeare, they are within and without so many mythologies and stories in the world. Maybe there's such a strong thematic element of 3 witches that's been used and reused in world mythology in so many ways. Maybe it's an irresistible trope, but it is a trope. And for it to be put into the Middle-earth world, it's just like inserting something else from our primary world that we're really familiar with. But I would say that the most successful representation of the 3 who are one, the 3 witches, or the 3 fates, the kindly ones, the best representation of that I've ever seen because it covers a lot of world mythology angles, would be Neil Gaiman's representation of those characters in the Sandman,
I
because
do.
it's very rich, very rich.
I do like this connection, and it's interesting that the Sandman just came out this year, and Macbeth had a new version this year on Apple Plus, which is an amazing, amazing. I love the new black and white Macbeth. But these
really good, really good.
These three witches. First off, I love the casting. I almost wish that they had been costumed a little more androgynous. And not explicitly female witches.
You've got super androgyny going on right there with everybody on the internet calling the first follower of Sauron, Slim Shady.
Eminem, Slim Shady. So I did like the casting. I don't know if I liked. I look. I think it's interesting. And so I think we've explained all the reasons not to like what the showrunners are saying about these characters. The thing I will say that I do like that these guys imply is that the magic that Gandalf uses to destroy them
was not enough to really destroy them, but just to dismember them and make them temporarily float away as spiritual moths. What is that?
It places the magic of the undead. It places the magic of the Nazgul. This is the first time we've placed the magic of the Nazgul. One of the great regrets of the Hobbit movies is that we see the tombs, but they are empty. Remember when Gandalf and Radagast go explore the tombs in the mountain, and like there's all they almost, it felt like they wanted to tell more of the lore about how the Nazgul were created, but then they backed off. They didn't have it. So I do like that Rings of Power is prepared to tell us the magic that makes the ring wraiths. And I don't think it's ever established at what point does a king of men become a ring wraith. We don't know. Does it happen after they die? Does it happen before they die?
No, they don't die. They don't die. They just sort of fade away into the unseen world where they're no longer flesh and blood.
So look. I feel like yeah. So a lot to be said about that scene. They are hinting at something really cool. I just don't know. I think the execution and the emotional beat that we were supposed to get as an audience didn't land, and we didn't get the takeaway that we were supposed to. And the fact that the showrunners are now having to defend these decisions in the press rather than the work speaks for itself. I'd rather the work speak for itself rather than having to.
I agree.
Find out about all this, in the press. All right.
I agree. Well, that's interesting. In general, that's not marketing. That's a PR thing where they're letting the showrunners and the writers, reflect on their work and reflect on what kind of stuff that they've created and given to us in season 1. And at the end of it, the question is why feel defensive about it? Let the work speak for itself, right? I just found it so weird. So excuse me for coughing on you, but I just think it's a bit weird to have those 3 rings made first, and if Galadriel is now trapped in a secret of not admitting to anyone around her that she brought the devil into their midst, right? And so the end of season 1 has this, what's this weird stuff hanging over Galadriel, where Halbrand just says to her, you don't have to lie to them, just let the work progress.
And then she does, and then she follows his instructions.
And it's just so weird.
It's so
when I
weird.
stop to
Well,
think about it.
another thing Patrick McKay said in the press, Cliff, he says, Patrick McKay says, my immediate reaction to that question is no. Are you listening to the fans? And his immediate reaction is
Is no.
no.
Okay.
Not that we aren't paying attention to the response the show is having. I don't know how you could shut it out. But the second season has been written for some time now, and the storytelling grows and goes in different directions.
Yes,
Different
and it goes different directions, yes.
That is informed by what we learned on season 1 on our own. There are things that seem to really work and others that didn't work as well as we hoped. The storytelling will be different next time, not because of the response to the show, but because of the experience of making the show for us.
Yep. I remember that. I remember that very
Cliff,
clearly.
guys, I just want to tell you, it's okay to say, "Hey fans, we're listening, guys. We hear you." It's okay to say that. In fact, it's probably better for you to say that at this point. But this type of comment,
it sounds like prevarication.
It sounds like this type of comment, like, yeah. Look, guy, basically, this comment, Patrick is saying, look, we learned a lot on season 1, and we're already making changes without you guys telling us. And it's like, that's not, whether it's true or not, that's not what the fans want to hear. There's something about this world, this legendarium, Tolkien's legendarium, that the Patrick McKay, J.D. Payne are stewards of for television right now, right? But it is not your land. It is the land of the people. It's the land of the fans. And you have to look at it like a ruler would, where you have to be you should be benevolent to the people. You know, even though we didn't vote you in, you were ordained in, right? As stewards. But saying that, look, we're not listening to any of you, and you know, like, we see that things aren't working and we're making changes, but it's okay to say, hey fans, we hear you. We hear Peter Jackson was really good at saying, I hear you.
Yeah, but you know, it's also true what Dan says in the live chat, that artists should not be beholden to their critics. Artists are in the job of creating their art, right? And like I said last week at the end of our show, I said I prefer that the writers not try to outsmart us all the time. You know, it's your job to be a good storyteller. It's not your job to outsmart the fans or to feel in any to feel any compulsion to do so. I mean, outsmarting us as a fandom to create mystery or tension in a series that you're adapting is an understandable thing that you might get into, but it's not necessary. It's really not.
Well, J.D. Payne, the other showrunner, says, we're certainly listening to critics and our audiences. You don't want to give any one voice too much weight, but to figure out what people are responding to in the aggregate. I don't know if I want to point to any specifics. I like this response a little better.
Yep, I do. I do too. Yeah. And the reason why is because, you know, you're allowing, with wisdom, you're allowing people to give you you're allowing yourself to read the room and to understand the barometric pressure of the fandom. And you would ignore that pressure in the room at your own peril, basically. Especially since they're so busy getting ready to do season 2, which we're hearing rumors will be 9 months worth of continuous shooting on those stages when they get it ready to go.
They are shooting right now.
Are they now? So they're rewriting and shooting right now.
Yeah, as far as we've heard, and
they've hired new costume people and new photographers and new videographers.
Okay. Yeah, new cinematographers, new everything, new directors. They are in their second rewrite for season 2. What we've heard is that they did remember late in 2020, Cliff, that we reported that the writers' room had been dissolved, and it caught a little kerfluffle. And so what we hear is that a rewrite was commissioned for season 2. They took the scripts that were done back in 2020. They asked for a rewrite earlier this year in April and May and June. And so there was a rewrite. And now that the show is out and Amazon Studios has seen the fan reaction and the critic reaction, and they've seen what fans are responding to and what audiences are not responding to, I am sure that Amazon has a bunch of data of when people pause the video or stop watching or turn off. So they've asked for a rewrite as the show was ending and as studio. So this will be the second rewrite on season 2.
Okay.
Season 2. So
I wonder how long it'll be before we start getting official announcements of new writers and new directors who are on board. I wonder.
This show is not out for 2 years, dude. Like,
so they're not going to say, well, this is the new person who's behind the camera right now, because you said they're filming right now. They're not going to tell us?
I don't think so. I don't think no.
Okay.
They've been so secret. Well,
we're going
let's
back
hope
to the black box where they're just a vacuum and
we
don't get any information from them. Another black box situation.
The fact that Amazon has hired Sue Kroll as head of marketing, and she is above every single person on the marketing team that had previously worked on Rings of Power. She reports directly to Jennifer Salke. She doesn't even report to the showrunners. So the person in charge of marketing as of today at Amazon for Rings of Power, I trust. And she is extremely qualified. She loves the fans. She's very forthcoming. She knows exactly what fans want to hear and see. So I am so excited. So you know what? I take that back. It is a clean slate. Right now, a clean slate. Sue Kroll starts today at Amazon as head of marketing. So you know what? I predict that things will change. Maybe there will be multiple set visits. Maybe they'll invite fans on one week, press another week. Maybe the fans will get some exclusives. Maybe Nerd of the Rings will get an exclusive and not just Empire Magazine or Vanity Fair. Maybe the One Ring will get an exclusive. Maybe this becomes a fan conversation for the next 2 years. So it's not like a black hole.
Good. Cliff, that is a note of optimism that I love to hear from you at the end of the show. I like that, Justin. And maybe we should extend that optimism and hold on to it and hold that as a bright, burning flame of optimism just for a little while longer. And you know what? Hello, Sue. Welcome aboard. The entire fandom, all the Tolkien fans everywhere, welcome you. And good luck. Buena suerte. Good luck to you, Sue. No pressure at all. No pressure.
Cliff, another quote with Collider. Writer Jennifer Hutchinson says, Galadriel's in this place of betrayal and angry, Galadriel is in this mental place of betrayal and anger and mad at herself and at him. And Sauron's really coming from this place of, no. This is good. This is all leading up to this. This is what we've been doing all season. See, by combining our powers, look what we've achieved. We could do so much more together. Do you agree with the writer's justification for the whole scene of Sauron saying, join me and together we can rule the galaxy?
No, because I never liked that very much. I wanted a different type of subterfuge, because I wanted the subterfuge that was written about by Professor Tolkien, and that's what I wanted.
Did you like Rings of Power taking the dialogue of crazy the epic Galadriel from Fellowship of the Ring, you would have a dark queen. Did you appreciate that scene when they started saying that dialogue?
Not so much. No, I mean, you're asking me the same question, Justin. You heard what I said during last week's report card. There was a lot of people to be fooled on the grand stage of Middle Earth. And good night, Monica. Thank you for being with us in the live show. There's a lot of people to be fooled by Sauron and get really, really deliriously tricked by his subterfuges. Galadriel was not one of them. You know, I'm not quite sure where it's going to go next, because now we have to create another character that Sauron has to assume a fair form yet again to start fooling Celebrimbor even more. Unless
okay, you just triggered something. I'm excited about the potential of Sauron being recast every season.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, there was only supposed to be one Anatar. There's only supposed to be one Anatar.
But I thought there's a point where he shows up androgynous, or he shows up as a woman at some point. And
no.
What about the followers that, like, you know, blood draining and drinking? I thought there was a whole thing of like beheadings and no? Am I wrong? Bless you.
Thank you. The answer is he does not show up as a woman or as an androgynous form. That's Loki. Loki shows up as a different female character, okay? But yes, he allows himself to be Anatar, the same person who teaches Celebrimbor how to make rings, and he ends up being willing to let himself submit and be taken prisoner by Pharazôn and go back to Numenor. And then he starts corrupting the hearts of Numenorians. So we don't need a new actor every season. We just needed one person to play Anatar. Instead, we had another person play Halbrand. But now there's this mix of how many times is Halbrand going to come back to Eregion to work with Celebrimbor in the rings? Like, what? Because the three of them were made first. So I have too many unsatisfactory places to go in my mind, and all of them lead to confusing and unsatisfactory places because of where we are at the end of season one. I don't know what's gonna be there next season to reconcile itself with the lore. And maybe the showrunners are not really that concerned anymore with reconciling themselves with the way Tolkien wrote it. It's a different world, it's a different adaptation, and it is what it is for now.
The chat room is saying Nerd of the Rings, the number one Tolkien lore YouTuber on YouTube, says, "Yeesh, Justin. One of these days you should read the books." Well, then I would have no reason to subscribe to your channel and learn about the lore. So I hope you're getting it right. Of Gondor says, Sauron tricks Numenor, or Justin, he tricks Numenor as Sauron, not as a different person. So Sauron's just a guy, and throughout Middle Earth is what I'm understanding is that in Tolkien's books, Sauron's just a guy, kind of like, you know, certain people, certain political leaders here in the world right now, where he's like, he's just a guy, and you either decide, some people decide to follow him, and some people say, how could you follow that guy? And other people are like, I'm following him. Sounds all right. So it's Sauron. It's Tolkien's text, set up where it's like Sauron doesn't trick everybody. Sauron just is Sauron, and people decide to side with him or not. Well, let's go to Tolkien's text. We have letter 183. Tolkien's letter 183 says, "In my story, I do not deal in absolute evil. I do not think there is such a thing. since that is 0. I do not think that at any rate any rational being is wholly evil. Satan fell. In my myth, Morgoth fell before the creation of the physical world. In my story, Sauron represents as near an approach to the wholly evil will as is possible. He has gone the way of all tyrants, beginning well, at least on the level that while desiring to order all things according to his own wisdom,
Right.
he still at first considered the economic well-being of other inhabitants of Middle-earth. But he went further than human tyrants in pride and lust for domination, being in origin an immortal angelic spirit. In The Lord of the Rings, the conflict is not basically about freedom, though that is a naturally involved. It is about God, capital G God, and his, capital H, sole right to divine honor. The Eldar and the Númenóreans believed in the one, capital, the one true God, capital G, and held worship of any other person an abomination. Sauron desired to be a god king and was held to be this by his servants. If he had been victorious, he would have demanded divine honor from all rational creatures and absolute temporal power over the whole world. And an asterisk, Tolkien says, he has the power. He is an immortal angelic spirit of the same kind as Gandalf and Saruman, but of a far higher order. Did you get a vibe, Cliff, from season 1 that this Sauron wants to be praised, wants adoration, wants to be a god, wants to be heralded as a god? Did you get that sense? You're muted.
That's because I was making really unpleasant noises while I was coughing over here. No, not really. I didn't get that sense. You know what? This Sauron that we experienced, it looked like he was more interested in laying out a really elaborate trap for Galadriel instead of being straightforward with her. And we're not even at that conversation because we're in the late second age, right? At this point in our Rings of Power chronology, we're so late into the second age, we're not at that beginning part where Sauron really did repent from his cooperation with Morgoth and servitude to Morgoth. And he did feel bad. And he was asked by an emissary of the Valar to literally go all the way back to Valinor and pay for his deeds and make his repentance clear. And he chose not to do that. But that happened many, many centuries before the curtain opened up on the Rings of Power, which is set by time compression necessities way, way, way far down into the end of the second age. So no, I got a picture of a Sauron / Hallbrand who is more interested in getting a weird scheme in place with Galadriel more than he was interested in redeeming himself, because what was required to redeem himself was something that the showrunners didn't even give us, that he was asked to go to get on. You know who should have been on that boat? Do you know who should have been on that boat going to Valinor and jumping off the ship? Sauron, not Galadriel. That would have been far more in alignment with what we
That
understand
is
about the story.
interesting. Hey, there is a footnote. Tolkien wrote.
Imagine him saying, "You've got."
I'm
Imagine.
sold. I'm sold on the
Imagine.
idea, but
Anyway.
I just wanted. There's a small footnote that Tolkien wrote in letter 183. It says, when Sauron found out how greatly his knowledge was admired by all other rational creatures, and how easy it was to influence them, his pride became boundless. I did not get a sense that in this show he demonstrated an effort to share his knowledge, but I did not get the sense from the other characters that they were in awe of his knowledge. Remember when he goes in Numenor, he goes down to the smiths and says, "Hey, can I make a sword with you guys?" And then Celebrimbor, and then he does all the stuff with Celebrimbor for 15 minutes in episode 8.
Yeah.
Too much rush.
Yeah.
But
quite rushed. Yeah.
This
15 minutes and there you go.
Tolkien's letter 183 says he was astonished by how other creatures admired his knowledge. I did not get the sense from the other creatures, the other characters in this in season 1, that they really were astounded by him. I feel like if they were to expand on what I think the showrunners are trying to do, which is play a balance of like the repentant, season 1 was kind of like a balance of that. Like they should have shown every episode Halbrand getting more and more adoration, like, you know, from nothing, showing up on a boat, tied, you know, in handcuffs, to like by the time they leave Numenor, everybody there is like, "Hey, this guy's really good. It's really smart. Actually, he should be leading this thing." Like I feel like there should have been a level of adoration, but the most adoration we ever got are the orcs chanting Nampat to Adar.
You know, it's funny?
Halbrand didn't even get his adoration.
One person in the chat actually said, very adroit observation, "Thank you, Otaku Senpai, as always. Adar came off as more ambitious than Halbrand."
100%.
Much of the time.
And Adar got increasingly more adoration as the show went on. And then Adar...
I thought he was a great character. What a great character. Really
not only is he a great character,
really
he's a better Sauron. Let's just say it.
All right,
Adar is a better Sauron.
There you
and
go.
good writers can retcon whatever they had planned. Good writers, you know what? If you're going to say that Sauron is a deceiver, then that whole scene with Galadriel, let's throw it in the trash. Let's just retcon season 2. Adar is Sauron. That's what I'm asking for
season
right
2.
now.
Adar is Sauron. I like
Adar is Sauron. Let's make the whole storyline of...
You can't. You had Halbrand stick that spear. That spear was on Adar's neck, and Halbrand said very specifically, "Remember me."
Halbrand is the Witch King.
Remember me.
Okay? Listen. Adar still has an opportunity to flex. All right? Let's just, you know what? Sauron the Deceiver.
Hello, and I want to say hello, Brian Martin. I agree. I would have enjoyed more screen time with Durin and Elrond than anything else. Yes. This is all very... And Disa. Everybody in Khazad-dûm is like the best storyline. I love that stuff. And Elrond and his friendship with the dwarves is the best thing that... Actually, it's the main thing I want to come back and see. You want to give me a reason to come back and watch season 2? It's got nothing to do with making rings out of order. I'm just interested in more Durin, Disa, and Elrond. So I'll come back for season 2. I will for that. That's just me.
Cliff, right. people on the Discord keep finding things from Tolkien's books. They found this in circa Second Age 1590. The 3 rings are completed in Eregion, and 10 years later, Sauron forges the 1 ring in Orodruin, which is the volcano, and he completes Barad-dûr the same year. And
which had taken many centuries to build. Centuries to
yeah,
build.
they haven't even started building it. And
Haven't even started it yet. Right.
Celebrimbor perceives the designs of Sauron. This is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Why does Celebrimbor only start to perceive the designs of Sauron
Because
after the One Ring is made?
when he puts on the One Ring, that's when Sauron tries to exert his control over all of the rings. And Celebrimbor, who created them, senses immediately Sauron coming through the wavelength to come and get him. So they immediately take their rings off. The three.
Interesting.
The three rings are immediately taken off and hidden. They hide the elven rings and they take them off their fingers as soon as Sauron starts to wield the one. That's when he becomes aware.
Daisy Kim in the chat room says the entire season could have been focused on Aragian and the forging of the rings. Yes, the whole season. I would have loved to see more Aragian. Hey, there's another thing that our Discord found. Galadriel, striving to counteract the machinations of Sauron, was successful in Lorenland, while in Lindon, Gil-galad shut out Sauron's emissaries, and even Sauron himself. But Sauron had better fortune with the Noldor of Aragion, and especially with Celebrimbor, who desired in his heart to rival the skill and fame of Feanor. So, where is Arondir a Noldor elf?
No, Arondir is not a Noldor. No, he's never been. He never saw the light of the two trees. Yeah, Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor is Feanor's grandson. And that's why some fans found it weird that Brimby didn't say anything on screen about, this is the hammer of my grandfather. This is my grandfather we're talking about, Feanor. That never came out of his mouth. So, yeah, Arondir is a Sylvan elf.
Oh, Sylvan elf, that's right.
He is one of the Avari.
One more quote that our Discord pulled out this week. Okay. And he said to them, "Alas for the weakness of the great, for a mighty king is Gil-galad, and wise in all the lore is Master Elrond. And yet they will not aid me in my labors. Can it be that they do not desire to see other lands become as blissful as their own?
But wherefore should Middle-earth remain forever desolate and dark, whereas the elves could make it as fair as Erisea, nay, even as Valinor? And since you have not returned thither, as you might, I perceive that you love this Middle-earth, as do I. Is it not then our task to labor together for its enrichment and for the raising of all the elven kindreds that wander here untaught to the height of that power and knowledge which those have who are beyond the sea?"
I didn't realize until reading that excerpt how much the blackness in Gil-galad's leaf and the Mithril story really just misses the mark. Like, there's a whole motivation.
The real motivation the motivation that Sauron has is to try to influence the Noldor who are there in Middle-earth to have their pride, to harness their pride and make their own miniature Valinor kingdoms in Middle-earth. And Sauron taps into that.
Yeah, and make the rest of Middle-earth. You know, why can't we have? And this would explain why Sauron gets all of the lands of dwarves and men on his side, because he can go to them and say, "Hey, the elves don't want to improve your lives." But the problem is now that they've set up this thing with Durin and Mithril and the blackness plague, is that they've kind of just killed that story of, like, the
Yeah.
elves are dying, and
Hmm.
so there's like
You know what?
it
Especially that quote where he says, "I perceive you love Middle Earth as much as I do," which is what a politician would say right before election season. I perceive that you love America as much as I do, so vote for me. This is straight out of the sleazy politician's playbook. And Tolkien knew that Anatar slash Sauron would behave in that way, trying to tap into a sense of not nationalism, but a sense of superior identity, that the elves should have their power to be as increased and not decreased. It's all a play on pride, and it's an exemplification of how Catholic, understandably and beautifully, Professor Tolkien put these Catholic ideas about pride being sinful and pride taking you down a direct path of error, to put you in the clutches of Satan through pride that would take the elves, pride that took Feanor and his sons to make the oath of Feanor. And that pridefulness led to so much disaster and tragedy. And I do imagine the clarity of his metaphysical thoughts, that Professor Tolkien understood the deeper malice that Sauron was bringing to the elves was by trying to get their pride harnessed into a greater plan so they could have their own visions of dominion over Middle Earth and their own kingdoms over Middle Earth. And so, yeah, he plays into the hands of the dwarves and the elves by offering rings of power to tap into their sense of that as well, to have their own dominions. But it's really intriguing what we could have gotten in season one, but what we didn't. It's
Final quote from the
interesting.
showrunners defending the show, and I want your feedback on this, Cliff. Patrick McKay says, quote, Mithril is unusual in Middle Earth. It's Tolkien's vibranium or adamantium or unobtainium.
Mm.
Is it though?
No, unobtainium is just a MacGuffin. Sorry. That to understand the way that James Cameron put something so lame, so freaking lame, that they have to have the entire Earth military go to the Pandora moon just to get this unobtainium.
Adamantium.
Look, it's just a MacGuffin. It's just that unobtainium is the most stupid word in the history of screenwriting.
Is the
It is the most
Mithril
stupid
legend?
word, and I will never forgive James Cameron for having one of his actors on screen call it unobtainium. It's just so stupid. But no,
I hope.
Mithril is not that. Mithril
not.
is not a MacGuffin of a story. It happens to be a remarkable and important natural resource that has now been turned into a MacGuffin of season one of the story, in a way. But I don't know
Mithril
about that.
chlorians. That's what I'm calling it. Mithril chlorians, because that's how I feel about it. And I hope the next 40 hours of the 42 hours of this show just completely ignore the concept of mithril chlorians. I hope another dwarven. There are 7 kingdoms of dwarves. I hope there's another dwarven kingdom that is already mining and working with mithril.
Guess what? They're next door to Gil-galad, the High King, because they're in the Blue Mountains. Did you know that when Smaug destroyed the stronghold of the dwarves in the Lonely Mountain, where did the survivors go? The survivors went to the kingdom of the Blue Mountains, which is right to the west coast, just west of the Shire, and that's where they lived and operated. Was another kingdom of the dwarves, and that's where Lindon used to be. So in the Third Age, Thorin and all of his cousins didn't have that far to march. They did not have far to go from the area of Lindon and those Blue Mountains and they marched right down to Bag End to meet Bilbo on that bright morning.
Look,
That's where there's another dwarven kingdom. And guess what? They didn't even show us that. They did not show us in season 1
well,
that there's another dwarven kingdom right there where Elrond and Gil-galad are in Lindon.
We've got 2 years to debate everything we like and don't like about the season 1 of Rings of Power. All I know is right now the showrunners and the writers are going to the press and justifying and defending their decisions rather than having a piece of art that stands on its own and justifies itself. And all I can do at this point in time is we know that they're rewriting the scripts for season 2, and we've have proof that they are listening to us. They are listening to fans, not us, fans in general. So whatever platform Nerd of the Rings has, or Dr. Corey Olsen, the Tolkien professor, or the chat room here that we put on screen so everybody watching the show at Amazon can see your chats. If they are paying attention, all we can do is share our perspective. I'm not saying we know what we want, but we know what's not working for us. So
fair enough.
That's all. And I would be totally happy if you just retcon the whole Halbrand is Sauron thing. Just let Adar be Sauron, please.
That's right. Oh, thank you, Otaku Senpai, for the very smart and very accurate historical notes. He says that many of the elves, and I think you meant dwarves, many of the dwarves of the Blue Mountains moved to Khazad-dûm, and also the Blue Mountains lacked Mithril. Didn't have it there.
Yeah. And I will say this, like, look, a lot of people did not like The Hobbit when it came out, but now that people are revisiting it 10 years later, it's a pretty dang good movie, and it's so much fun, and it's so good, and we had to wait a year between those.
Any excuse to have more Christopher Lee as good guy Saruman is what we need. We needed it. All 6 films together need it. The Fellowship of the Ring benefits greatly from having Peter Jackson show Saruman and the White Council and him being an operative with the good guys before he betrays everyone.
Oh, the telepathic meeting? Where they just appear with their own power of the mind.
Yeah. But for a lot of people in the Fellowship of the Ring, Saruman turning into, he's a good guy that Gandalf is going to go and visit. And then it takes less than 30 seconds and he turns into a traitor. And there's just no back context for that at all. And I give the Hobbit movies a great deal of credit, and at least for doing that. At least for doing that. So here we are, back at the end of a wonderful Torn Tuesday. Boy, this has been a really delicious 2 hours, and thank you everybody for joining us in the live chat. And Pipsky, I'm glad you had a beautiful Halloween costume. It was really super cute, and I loved it. I loved your costume.
Nampat.
And Nampat, hey, you know what we used to do all the time? We used to do Grand. That became a big thing in our chat. Was all of our chatters going Grand, and now it's Nampat, which is pretty cool. I think that's fine. Yeah, Nampat, everybody. So thanks for joining us. Justin, do you have any last thoughts about what the heck is going on over there?
Look, both
UK?
of us are working.
What's going on over there?
Both of us are working on big articles. Cliff is working on a wonderful obituary to Jules Bass of Rankin Bass, who basically made who established the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings in children's minds for a generation. Yes. And then I'm working on pulling a lot more of these quotes. By the way, I've got one. Before we go, I will let the showrunners have the last word.
Okay.
You just keep seeing is people trying to do good. Even the villains in season 1 in their minds are doing good, and a good that's sort of justifiable, to themselves, and that you can relate to and understand. And I think, in the writers' room very early on, we talked about the idea of variations of goodness being the subject of the show, and trying to honor that. We're never gonna out Machiavellian, shows that have mastered Machiavellian-ness, and the general feeling of peak bleak that I think we talked about maybe with you before, which is like the prestige drama has gotten pretty grim. And that's not a good or bad, that just is, and I think we felt like, could we try to make a show that would have real stakes and intensity at times, but that at the end of the day had some of the optimism and hope and positivity that you feel when you read Tolkien.
I didn't feel any positivity or hope in any of the storylines. Like season 8 ends, season 1 ends on a downer with the dwarves, ends on a downer with the Harfoots. Like we lose the leader of the Harfoots. Ends on a downer with the Southlands. Ends on a downer in Numenor. Like Elendil's Isildur's maybe dead and everyone's down. Like if that was your goal, showrunner, you missed. And that's the final word. We have a great show.
I don't have anything to say.
We have a great show for you next week where we might have an update on Lord of the Rings Online and a sneak preview at the new expansion for Lotro. What we are playing on the beta and what we've seen, amazing. It's great for people that have never played Lotro that want to get some backstory. Like they're moving into some early story era of Lotro. It's going to be really fun. So next week we should have a good show for you tomorrow. That's going to be really fun.
In honor of Rankin and Bass, and because I still have the Halloween spirit with me, even though it is the day after Halloween, I'm going to put in my collector's edition of Mad Monster Party, one of the most adorable and fun stop-motion animated films ever made, with Boris Karloff, the wonderful voice of Boris Karloff, and Phyllis Diller. Yes, Phyllis Diller as the monster's mate. The Frankenstein monster is in there too. I'm all about the Rankin and Bass stop-motion animation. And yes, somebody did say they did a very loose adaptation of L. Frank Baum's Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, and that was their annual holiday special, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, where Mickey Rooney was the voice of Saint Nick. Yeah, that was really good stuff. Yes, that's right, Phyllis Diller. You guys check out Mad Monster Party. Get your hands on it. It's so cool. And also, there's something about The Hobbit, the 1977 version of The Hobbit. When it came out, it was the one thing that made me want to pick up the book and read Tolkien, was because of my childhood fascination with that animated story. And there's an entire generation of people around the world who feel that way. They were introduced to the extraordinary power of Tolkien's literature by this beautiful and well-meaning 77-minute animated telefilm. And it caused a lot of wonderful things to happen for everyone moving forward. So my hat off to you, Saul Bass, and may you rest in peace. And here at the end of this lovely show, I'm going to say good night, everyone. Oh yeah, Flight of the Dragons. Yes, Brian, they did Flight of the Dragons as well. It was really good stuff. Let me just say good night, everybody. Stay safe and look after one another. And we'll see you next Tuesday right here at theonering.net for our weekly mischief. Our show is going to rock the boat a little bit more with news and rumors from the worlds of J.R.R. Tolkien. So stay tuned next week at 5 o'clock Pacific time. Until then, good night and good luck, or better yet, buenos noches y buena suerte. Bye, everybody.
They really should hire Neil Gaiman. They just need